I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my success is only made.
Let's get started. Okay, everybody, Fernando Petty here, UVO Real Estate, UVO Podcast, Wolf of Real Estate Podcast.
Wolf of Real Estate.
Daniel, can we switch the background? Wait, we didn't do the new one, huh? Should we put let's put the background. Can you? How long will that take? Okay. It'll take like 2 seconds. While you're doing that, let's introduce our guest. Today in the podcast, we have a very special guest.
We do.
How long have we been talking about getting George on?
Quite some time now, man.
Since the beginning.
Since day one, yeah.
I think since day one.
Day one. All right. I love it.
We got to get George
Day
on.
one. All right, everybody. If you guys don't know him, we have a special guest, George Morris, founder of Century 21 Everest. Woo! Yeah, those sound effects are money, huh?
Yeah, they never get old.
Yeah, I like those sound effects. But
I
dude,
do that every time I come into anything.
oh, they do that?
That sound effect. I like that.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one. Daniel found him. He put this whole thing together for us. We have it up? Oh, we do have it up. Awesome. Okay, well, dude, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us. We're actually in his building.
Yeah.
In the office space George gave to us.
You did.
So really grateful for that.
Thank you.
But George, first of all, so the purpose of this, number one, is to, a lot of people know that George is getting more and more popular on social media.
Yeah, he is.
Which is good. And I really want to paint George in a specific light because I feel like not a lot of people get a lot of time with George.
Yeah, they don't.
Right? They don't get a lot of time with George. And we get some time with you. We always really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we can get George on the mic a little bit more, especially in our podcast studio, that gives people the opportunity to kind of get to know him on a personal level.
Yeah.
So George, tell us, first of all, before you got into real estate, where are you from? Are you here from Utah originally?
I am homegrown, Utah.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Grew up at the mouth of Little Cottonwood Canyon out there in Sandy. And then the joys of divorce. My parents got divorced when I was about 5. My mother stayed out there and then moved out over into the Canyon Rim area in the mouth of Parley's Canyon and ended up going to Skyline High School. Did a few years at the University of Utah and then found this great love affair with real estate.
Okay.
And the rest is history, man. Here I am.
So
nearly 30 years later.
But you are a serial entrepreneur. Would you say yourself a serial entrepreneur?
I've never said that, but you know what? I have a friend who says I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I have never taken that claim, but I guess one could say with all the different companies that I own, one might suggest that.
Yeah, because you didn't start in real estate, correct? I mean, you've had other businesses.
Yeah, so I mean,
my
my big story was, it's one of the things that I've realized that so many people, have so many limitations to their life. And I remember when I was in my early 20s, I had created a little landscaping company. And in the midst of creating that landscaping company, I picked up a particular client that had a few investment properties, and I started mowing the lawns while I was going to the University of Utah. And while I was mowing those lawns, I remember he pulled up in this brand new, spanking, shiny, dark, rich blue Lexus LS 400. And it was when Lexus really, back in the day where it was just coming onto the scene, and it was kind of the hot topic of cars. And I remember looking at his car. I was in the middle of mowing this front lawn of this duplex he owned, and I looked at my car, which was a rusted out 1978 Dodge Ram Charger that could only be driven during the daytime because the lights didn't work, and you had to have every single window down because you would be absolutely intoxicated with carbon monoxide because all of the pipes underneath were broken and there was holes that had rusted out in the floorboards. I don't even know how I got it to pass inspection, but it did. and I don't know how I even got but I knew I had to always be home before nighttime. I had to make sure that the windows were always open. And I remember looking at that car, looking over at his, and I remember saying to myself, I wonder what he does.
Yeah.
And it was shortly thereafter I found out that he was in real estate. And nothing has been more profound for me in the game of real estate than these words right here. As I got to know him and I got to see what he did, I remember saying to myself, if he can do it, so can I. And I start thinking about so many times in our lives where we have such profoundly amazing examples of people who are excelling at extraordinary levels, frankly, like the two of you, that you should be an inspiration to others who see you and say, oh my gosh, if they're doing it, so can I. And I think that there's something to be said by that when we look around us, not in judgment, but of celebration and recognizing that how many times have we said that we will judge that person, almost put down that person for their success, versus saying, my gosh, if they're doing it, so can I. And that's what got me started in real estate. I realized people say, how did you have so much confidence when you walked through? I just kept affirming in my mind that if someone else can do it, so can I. It's not an exclusive club. So wherever we're coming from, it doesn't matter whether it's, you wonder whether you can be a great parent. You're a new dad, Alan, right? It doesn't matter whether, you got a great business. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to get in great health. If you look around you, instead of all the people who are failing, look at the few people, like the top 20% that are winning. And if they're doing it, so can you.
So can you, yeah. What's crazy is when you said the Dodge thing, I did landscaping too. And I had my own little company too. When I was about 16 and, I was going through a lot of emotions. I left school. I wasn't really a good student in school. But I went into my own business because I learned that I was a bad employee too. And I got fired or quit every job that I had very quickly too, a couple of days. I think one job I had was in a warehouse, and I think it lasted like 3 hours, and I'm like, it's not for me, and I left. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to succeed if I'm an employee. I got to have my own company. I learned that as a young kid. And when I got into landscaping, I had a little Dodge. It was Dakota, Dodge Dakota,
sure, yeah.
old one, like a 89 or something. And I did landscaping. And the funny thing is, listen to this. The funny thing is, the headlights didn't work in that one either. And I had to drive at night. And
it's
I had
the requisite of a landscaper.
I had to hold the high beam thing down to get the high beams to turn on because the lights wouldn't work. And that was the story of my life for a while. And I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through those challenges, those struggles, which are not really that big of a deal, to be honest with you.
I mean, and I joke about it today. I finally, because my 16-year-old son, wanted to buy a lawnmower, but I vowed when I was mowing literally 100 lawns a week, I vowed I will never, ever, ever mow another lawn in my lifetime. And I have stayed true to that. And then when my son wanted to start mowing and picking up his own little mowing accounts, making a little bit of side money while he's going to school, high school, I said, all right, dude, I'll buy you a lawnmower. And so we went into the same shop that I bought all of my own gear from way back in the day, Pearson's on Highland Drive. And we went and bought some great equipment. And of course, I'm like, well, we got to buy commercial grade for the 3 lawns you're mowing, which is ridiculous. But I went overkill on this stuff. But whatever.
I will say this: shout out to everyone who mows lawns.
Yes.
Number one, shout out to that career, because you know what? I feel like that is such a great entry point into becoming an entrepreneur for kids, for any age. And you know what's crazy?
Start to realize you're in control.
Yeah. It's the simplest way to manage.
Well, then on top of that, you don't have a whole lot of money that you need to put up right out of the gate. We're talking about a lawnmower, a few $100, you can pick one up.
Correct.
And then eventually you can get more and more, et cetera, and get a better, newer, bigger, et cetera. But yeah, it's a perfect entry point.
We've talked about that in the office when we've talked to agents who are struggling in real estate. And Al and I would look at each other and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but we've talked to agents in the past who maybe didn't even have enough money. We believe wholeheartedly in investing in your business, always, right? Alan and I are somebody who we might make a lot of money in 1 month from our company, and we literally put every dime back in the company, which is kind of a stupid thing sometimes, right? But
I don't know. Is it people talk about cap rates? I remember years ago, I used to have people say, how much real estate do you own? What do you do this? And I always would say, I've put everything back into what I'm creating and what I'm building.
I love that. Okay, we see eye to eye on something.
And I love the statements of Grant Cardone. He talks about everyone's like diversification. You need to spread, like, he goes, I put all my eggs into one basket. And he goes, once that basket's making enough money, once that basket is flourishing, great, then you might want to say, okay, let's diversify a little bit. Yeah. But for let's just take Everest, the enterprise itself, for the last 13 plus years, every single dollar that I have earned, aside from the dollars to just say, okay, hey, let's go have at least a decent life, I have built and put back in to build the foundation of mortgage companies, title companies, real estate companies, you name it. And to I know you had her on in your studio. I'm building a real estate school right now with Cheryl Knowlton.
Oh.
And we're going to be launching that this July, August, September, somewhere right in there.
Oh, that's so cool.
What a
Shout out to
soul
Cheryl.
world.
I love Cheryl.
We are
She's
full,
awesome.
Yeah,
we're
we
hanging
are
out
full
tomorrow.
bore. She's in the studio today, literally recording.
Nope.
So I'm obsessed with putting those dollars back into doing the things that I know work. And yes, do I buy real estate? Of course I do. But I have a big belief that there's a period of time where you do put all your eggs in one basket, and the silliness of diversification. And then what happens is then you basically are making no money. You're having all of this stuff, all of you're diluting your efforts, you're diluting your dollars and the efficiencies and effectiveness of them. So I think you got to focus, and that's what I've done.
So I want to go back to that because, and you brought up another subject too, which I want to hit on. One of them specifically was an agent that we talked to who had a tough time, and this was month over month, right? And so I know it was a mindset thing, tough time finding the money to invest in his business down to the smallest investment of just getting a headshot done from a photographer, right? And would we have paid? Probably.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see if he believed in himself enough to invest in his own business. $100 we're talking for the photographer, right? And this is month over month. And it was obviously a challenge for him, some sort of a habit for him. I found out later that he was spending the money on this stuff, which was not good.
Right. I remember
No,
a little bit
about,
of
right?
this story. Yes.
So, but like I said, we invest heavily in ourselves and our business. And when I talk to agents like that, the first thing that goes to my head was like, dude, you don't have $100, go mow some fucking lawns.
Right.
Like,
Go do something.
Go mow some lawns.
Go sell a phone if you have to.
Yeah,
you
go
know?
sell a phone.
Go
do something.
go sell something on KSL or eBay or
Exactly.
I mean, I'm serious. Like I asked my son, I go, where did you get the money to buy that? And he's like, I sold this. I'm thinking, okay, I like the fact that you're thinking like an entrepreneur.
Yep.
I'm like, here he is, like, you know, got his side hustle in school, he wanted to buy a surfboard and a new golf club. I'm like, I'm not buying it for you. Go earn it.
Yeah.
So what did he do? I just said, I want to hope that you didn't sell my stuff because I wouldn't put that past him as a teenager to sell my stuff.
Yeah, of course not.
Right.
You already have a few of those.
But he sold his stuff. He sold a fishing thing that he didn't use. And I'm like, good for you, man.
There you go. Yeah, so you got to be resourceful. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is something that Alan and I both have dealt with, but I feel like, and I can speak for myself on this, is the way I look at fear in business is something that doesn't really affect me. You know, I've always been completely fearless in business. And I've done a lot of work on that to get myself there and put myself in that place mentally to be able to try new things and not be afraid of them. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the other thing, because you brought that up about investing sometimes everything you have into one basket. Right. And if it's a business you truly believe in, a lot of the times we find
burn the ships, right?
There you go.
You're all in.
Yep.
All in, cut all elements of retreat.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, because that seems to be something that a lot of entrepreneurs deal with, real estate agents deal with, and that is to how the hell do you overcome fear as a new real estate agent or a new entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur in anything, right? Any business. How do you overcome the fear of being a mom or a dad? How do you overcome the fear of, or the self-sabotage or of getting your health in order? Or maybe you came from a family that none of them are healthy. And so how do you break free from anything that's holding you down, right? There's two things. I want to merge these both together. You talked about the belief in yourself with that agent who wouldn't even pay the price, figure out a way to get the $100 for a headshot, right?
Yeah.
I think fundamentally you have to start with something very simple, and that is whether it's a notepad or pulling out a journal or whatever you want to do, but pull something out and grab a pen and declare for yourself the beliefs that you want to have. So some people will say, well, wait, I don't know if I don't know if I believe that. I said, I didn't say that. First, if you can't declare what you believe, like the new beliefs, then let's simplify it. Let's declare first and foremost what you'd like to believe. So most people, right, I think all of us would like to say, I believe in myself. Now you may say, well, I don't know if I do. I didn't ask that. I just asked, what would the beliefs you'd like to have? Well, first and foremost, declare the beliefs that you'd like to have, and ones that even though you may not feel them, you might be doubting yourself on them. You might not know how it's possible to get that, how to shift that. But again, I go back to, what would you like it to be? So first write down the belief. So let's just say the belief is health. Let's just start with health. I mean, we can start with real estate, business, what entrepreneur, but let's just say, what's your belief about your health? Is your belief that you're big boned? Is your belief that your family's always been this way? Is your belief that you've tried everything? Have you really tried everything?
Yeah.
And then I mean, in this scenario, I always say, well, could you tell me, what did you try? And they'll name like one thing. And they're like, well, what else did you try? Oh, everything. Okay, well, what else did you try to get into better health? And then you start to realize that their approach is completely screwed up, which then shifts their belief. So the key to great beliefs, great success, is first and foremost declaring what you want. Then secondarily, evaluating the approach that you're taking. And get really serious about changing your approaches to your business, to your health, and to your relationships. Get serious about the changing of the approach before you sit there and, by the snap of your fingers, change your belief or your goal or your objective, right? So all of a sudden you sit there and say, well, I want to have, optimum health. I want to weigh this much or do this or, run this marathon or do this triathlon or do a Spartan or, be able to walk up the stairs without being winded, whatever the goal is. Stop changing the goal and negotiating your dreams away before you change the approach. And the approach is the way in which you're approaching it. The approach would be what you're eating, how you're exercising, what's your hydration, what's your meal planning, what's the way in which you're combining those meals, when are you eating, what time of the day are you eating. All of a sudden you start to realize, wait a second here, this is possible if I just change my approach. Exactly. You can get into great health, optimum condition if you change your approach. So don't change the goal, change the approach. And if we would do that more in our health, of course, in our relationships, people will say, yeah, it's not going to work. Well, is it not going to work? I mean, Fernando, you've been married a long time. You know, anyone who's been married, I've been married 29 years this next month. You have to change your approach.
Yeah.
And if I have a goal to stay married and to be in love and to have a rich and fulfilling relationship that has passion and love and energy that flows and depth to it, well, the approach that I would take in my 20s worked, but it's not the same approach I can take today. It has to be more meaningful. I have to have a better approach if I want to continue with this amazing lady in my life.
Yeah.
So again, I go back to whether it's relationships, whether it's your health. Now go to your business. Okay. What's your goal? Is it $1 million? Is it $500,000? Is it $100,000? Is it 5 million? Well, ask yourself again. Don't get so, not you, but I'm not talking. I'm talking to you guys, but my point, right? Yeah. Talking to our audience. What is the goal economically? Okay, if you know the goal, then start working on the approach. You start working with coaches, mentors, people who are championing your cause. You start reading, you start studying, you start shaping the right mindset, the right skill sets for yourself to be able to earn the dollars you're supposed to earn. But it's the approach. And so the problem that I find so fascinating to me is how quick people give up their approach and say, well, I tried it. It didn't work. Whoa. So I go back to my original statement. If they did it, so can I. If someone else has shown the fact that they can make $1 million or $2 million or $5 million a year, especially in selling real estate, then I can. And it's not about my belief at that point. It's about my approach. So don't change the belief. Don't change the goal. Don't change the dream. Change the approach and watch. As you change the approach, you will change your life and you will achieve every goal and objective you have. Guaranteed you will change. It will happen if you're willing to change the approach and not settle, renegotiate, give up, quit on your dreams. You can't do it that way. You're never going to be effective in that process if you're doing it that way.
Change the approach. That's actually a pretty good way to put it. You know what, when you were talking about that, it made me think of, so I have a coach I told you about, and I've been seeing her for a long time. And she has this method of doing things that she learned from her mentor. And it's called The Work by Byron Katie. Have you heard of that?
Oh, I love Byron Katie.
Yeah. So
amazing.
So my
amazing.
Coach
she is a
Catherine.
rock star.
So my coach is Catherine. She was Byron Katie's first student. She actually put me to work with her. And so I learned from her. And exactly what you're talking about is exactly what they do. They look at what you're believing, what the belief is. And then they have you ask yourself, well, is this true? And then you'll sit there. It's true. It's a painful thought, painful belief. Mm-hmm. And then you'll go, okay, well, can you absolutely know that this is true? And you're like, well, I can't actually know that this is true. Okay, well, then let's start there. And I've done that and it works. And it takes you out of whatever you're believing, whatever's painful that is limiting, right?
Yeah, well, her great statement of how many of us live our lives in the shape of our fear, our doubt, and disappointment? I'm adding a few words in there, but this is her concept.
Yeah.
How many of us live our life in the shape of our fear, our doubt, and our disappointment versus living your life in the shape of your dreams, your goals, and your most sacred ambitions? That's real living.
Yeah.
You know, we wake up in the day, guys, living a life that is so often lived because of our past experiences. What we experienced, what we felt, what we saw. And if we don't get real serious about shaping the future, when you talked about fear, I mean, just think about this one little concept of, and when I say little, but it's a huge impactor into our lives. And that is that fear is all about the projection of unscattered thoughts of failure. Well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if I fail? And what if it doesn't work? And okay, that's living a life in fear. We live a life in the shape of our dreams, our desire, as Byron Katie says, in the shape of our desire.
Yeah.
It's our specific statement. In the shape of our desire, well, then what does it look like? Well, how do you shape that? You shape that through meditation. You shape that through writing in your journal. You shape that by visualization. And you start to craft a mindset that is built in faith, that has deliberate thoughts, deliberate and absolutely clear expectation. That's faith. A clear expectation with directed thought versus fear is undirected thought and scattered destinations. 1 minute's this, the next minute's that, 1 minute's that, and the next minute's that.
Yeah.
And the opposite of fear and faith, right, is so universally different because one is about the past and one is about the future. And when we start operating from the future in the shape of our desires, our dreams, and our most sacred ambitions, man, life is beautiful.
So you know her. That's good.
Oh yeah,
Byron Katie.
Dude,
that lady is a
absolutely.
Legend. I only introduced Alan to a Catherine before. Remember that?
Yeah, a few months ago.
Yeah,
dude, she is deep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude. I like I said, and I said this before. I mean, she saved my life. You know, I was going down a not a good path.
Yeah.
And I mean, she really just rocked my world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, you know, and Byron Katie was the one who taught her, and they still work together. You know, they do some stuff together. But I'm extremely grateful to have that. And like when we talk about mentors and you know, people who inspire you and stuff like that, I think that's so vital for entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? And shout out to YouTube, because I swear, if you don't have them, you go on YouTube and find them. You know, the book, Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. I think it was Napoleon Hill who said that, and this could have been him when he said that, you know, and they didn't have YouTube back then or the internet, but when he looked at, well, people you surround yourself with, you know.
Proximity's power.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you if you don't have a mentor close to you, you can imagine one.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he
talks about he imagined
Abe Lincoln.
He imagined Abe Lincoln, Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Once these guys had all passed away, he still had an imagery. If I sat in a room with them and they were all around in a circle, what advice would they give me if I was doing this and I was doing that? What would they say? And it helped him really. If people don't know, I mean, Napoleon Hill had a pretty rough life, man.
Yeah.
You know, disabled kid, of course, right? He had a few different marriages. He had someone threaten him in his life and like what we might call today stalking him. I mean, crazy stuff that happened to him. And yet he knew that if he listened to the counsel of the Andrew Carnegies, the Henry Fords, the Thomas Edisons, and they were sitting around that round table, that mastermind with him, he listened to what he believed they would say, and he knew their words. He knew what they would say.
Yeah. I when I heard that book, so I listened to it on Audible, and this was probably 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And when I listened to it, and he said that, it hit me, because I was like, I totally did that as a kid. I would imagine what these people would say to me. And it wasn't these guys, you know, I had other mentors, but you know, it really worked.
But dude, you're saying something so profound, and that is, you just used the word imagination. And I'm fascinated that when we were a kid, right, we were so amped on imagining, you know, make believe, you know, picturing something that wasn't real. And yet we get older, and for some reason we go, oh no, we're a realist. I want to be realistic. I want to be pragmatic. Okay, well, first and foremost, nothing great in life has ever been created that was not first seen in vision. I don't care whether it's the Golden Gate Bridge. I don't care whether it is the Eiffel Tower. I don't care whether it's the Colosseum in Rome. Every single one of those were seen first in vision. Someone imagined, they saw it, and then they built it. So I would just pose to anyone listening that, what are you imagining? What are you seeing? What's the vision of what your future looks like? How much money will you earn? What's important about the money, right? What does your health and your vitality look like? What is the optimal perfect relationship in relationship to your intimacy and the one you love? What does it look like? And sometimes we want to just ignore it and think that the winds will blow us in the right direction, and that's just not reality. You got to take charge of your life. First, envision what you want, see what you want, write down what you want, then start, as we talked earlier, we change the approach, we modify the approach, we work on the approach to get our lives in alignment with what we desire. Like Byron Katie said, a life built on what you desire, not what you're afraid of, what you desire, not what you're trying to avoid, what you want, not what you want to avoid, what you want. And that's a whole different life of beauty and hope and possibility and excitement and joy and fulfillment. And you start really clicking on all gears and your life just starts to flow because you're moving it in a direction you choose to move it in versus the winds of change. Because as Tony Robbins, I love his statement, change is automatic. Let's stop playing with change will happen. Progress will not. And the only way you get progress is you get deliberate and you get exactful. Or exact's not even a word. Exactful? Is that a word?
That's a word in here.
It's a word now. We just made it a word.
We'll take it.
Ask John Sy if that's a word. Exacting, right? Or it becomes exact, right? It becomes specific, and it becomes something really special. And it becomes to where you look back on your life and you're like, you know what? I designed that, and it was purposeful, and I meant to do it. Versus, was the market better? Okay, I got better. Man, how many times in our lives is it just that the market got better, or was it that we got better?
Yeah. And
we take claim for the market. Did you get any better? Are you a better communicator? Are you better at sales? Are you better with your mindset? Are you better in regards to your ability to create disciplines that foster the results that you want? Because the fact is if you don't get any better and the market just gets better, then you're just at the mercy of what the market does. It's either up or down. And that's the crazy part, because it has to do with the market, not you. But if we can move to a space where we focus on us becoming more, us becoming who we need to become, then it doesn't matter what the market's doing. Good markets, bad markets, we still make money.
You know what? I said this at the Climb event. I said, I love listening to George speak because George speaks in motivational quotes. Yeah. It's so awesome. There's another person that I really look up to, and another person that I look at like, this guy really saved my life too, is Les Brown.
Oh yeah,
Les Brown, and Les Brown. I mean, he's amazing at speaking, and I had the opportunity. We went and saw him.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, did you see him?
We ran into each other over there.
Very cool.
But that guy is such a great speaker, and I mean, yeah, you remind me a lot of him when you speak.
My favorite statement, speaking of the approach, he says these words. You'll remember them right when I say them. In fact, I thought you were going to say them, man. He said, "How is none of your business." How is none of your business. And his whole principle is decide what you want and stop filtering what you want based on thinking you don't know how you're going to get it. First say, I want to earn $1 million+, whatever the number is. Great. Well, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. Whoa, hold on.
It's none of your business.
First, get serious about the declaration of your goals and your objectives. How is none of your business at that point? Because what happens is when we think we have to have it all figured out first, we will never even try to figure it out or even write the goal down. So first and foremost, write down what you want. And then secondarily, yes, you can begin to figure it out. But how is none of your business. When you're writing goals and objectives and things you want to have happen, stop worrying about how and start worrying about the fact that once you decide, all things will come into order for you to be able to figure it out. And there's so many great quotes in regards to that.
You know what's crazy is I was literally and you took the question right out of my head. I was going to ask you, what is your favorite quote?
Well, that's one of them.
There you go. You said
because I'll set
It's
goals
so true.
and I always know this. I'm setting big enough goals if people are scratching on the head or walking away saying you're crazy or
I love that.
I love that too.
right? Or you're nuts or the it gets worse where all the naysayers are like, you're not going to do that. There's no way. Who does he think he is? You know you're on the right track of setting goals.
Yep,
At that point, you are on the right track.
Yep. Yeah, so I had a conversation with an agent that we interviewed yesterday.
Yeah.
And she has great potential, and I was actually extremely surprised. And I'm not somebody who judges a book by the cover, but sometimes you do. And when I talked to her, I wasn't expecting for her to say what came out of her mouth. And when she told me her story, I was extremely impressed. And she told me her dreams and aspirations. And when she told me her dreams and aspirations, I was very happy because I knew that as a leader, you want to have goals and dreams big enough to fit your, what do you want to call your team, the people who are around you, the people you're leading. You want to make sure that your goals and dreams are large enough for theirs to fit in.
Yeah.
And I was so happy that ours was.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment that I realized that she's going to be a great fit for a team.
Well, we've talked about this, right? And you've said it, you're saying it, and I've said for years about leadership and building a team and people around you. Is there's just a couple of rules. Number one is your dream has to be big enough where someone can see themselves in it, meaning that their own dreams can be achieved and accomplished because your dream is big enough. And that's one of the things I've really, frankly, prided myself in, that I've realized I've tried to think big enough to where people have been around me for years upon years upon years, guys, because they can see the fact that their dreams can be accomplished because my dreams are big enough that it includes theirs.
Yep.
Big deal. Like, it's a big deal. And so when you watch lots of turnover, what it usually means in any team, any environment, any business, it means that the dreams most likely were not big enough. Or, now let's go to the second point, you didn't cast and recast the vision of where you're going enough. I will never forget when I had an agent sit in front of me and they said, George, I look to you to cast the vision for me. I went, whoa. Now, of course, I said to her, hey, you need to be doing so much of that yourself. But it was a great lesson for me to remind me that although maybe early on in the year I quoted what we were going to all go do together, and hey, this is what we're going to do as a company together. But I realized that there we were in August of that year, and I had not shared the vision clear enough, passionately enough, energetically enough, consistently enough to where she forgot where we were going. And when she forgot, then she wandered and did something different. So the thing that's so important as a leader, not only in our own families, is to always speak to the vision of our future in our families and, of course, to our business. And then your job, if you have a team, is to ensure the fact that they know where you're going. And if you can just recast the dream, the vision over and over again, and then you make sure that vision, that dream is big enough for everybody, you'll have people who will stay with you for years upon years because everything that they want is accomplished by being aligned with you.
You know what? He told us that before. Remember that?
Yeah, he did.
I want to talk about that for a second because when we were speaking about coming back to C21,
Yeah.
we met and you did say that. And that resonated with me because I felt like you and I did that a lot. But somehow we let it slip, and that no longer was extremely important to us when we had our meetings.
Yeah.
When we had our sessions. I think over time you begin to believe and think that everybody
Already knows.
Yeah.
Well, he said that before. How many times have you heard me say, this is, you saw me get very choked up and emotional about that it is the greatest gathering of real estate professionals the world has ever seen. I deeply believe that. And so that gathering continues, where we just met another great agent just a minute ago, right?
Yeah.
That's considering to bringing his whole team over.
Yep.
And I really believe it is the assembly of the greatest leaders of real estate, period.
Amen.
I believe that
Amen.
too.
I couldn't have said that.
Well, you guys are here, so we know
I believe that too.
You guys are here. We know it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
But it is, man. Like, think about it.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Like even when it comes down to it, when we were making that decision on where to go, like we want to align ourselves with a company that has a big enough vision where we can
Yes.
Where your dreams can be achieved,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's why it made sense. Like no matter how we looked at it, I'm like, my God, it's you can feel it. You can usually feel it within you, within your heart, within your soul. You're like, this is the right move.
Yeah,
And
like look at your dream, right? Your dream is to have the Wolf of real estate, right? The dream is to have the studio. The dream is to have your autonomy with your own space and having your own team.
Yeah.
And the thing is that because my vision is also big, I can put myself within your shoes and I want to support that vision that you guys have. And all of a sudden you start living out your dreams because someone else believes in your dreams and someone else has the dreams that are capable to make that happen. I mean, that's great friendships, man. Those are brotherhoods, sisterhoods that last a lifetime because you're around people that are supporting you in every single angle of how you're trying to build your life. So it makes things so sweet. It makes it to where the wealth, the abundance economically happens, but man, the depth of friendship and brotherhood and sisterhood that happens, man, there's nothing better. I wouldn't give that up for anything.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, man.
Yeah. You know, Alan was here a lot longer than me at the beginning. Obviously, you built your whole career here.
I did.
And you know, I looked at that like and I know you don't have a lot of time left, so I'll get it. I'll tighten up the end quickly. But I remember when you when you recruited me into real estate.
Yeah.
And
It was what, like 3 years? No.
yeah, about 3.5 years. No, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago. We were. I was working in my lab. I had a lab at the time, George. I was actually a. Some would say, I don't know what I was. What the hell was I? Some type of nutraceutical
Like a
formulator.
chemist?
Yeah, chemist, something like that. And I was in my lab at the time, and I was making some supplements and doing stuff. And I was literally in my lab with the white coat. I don't know what the hell
Like
you're
literally
doing.
when I walked in.
You shouldn't even been in that clean room. But we're in my laboratory. And I was making some products, and you know we were talking, and he was talking and talking. Alan is a very good talker. He'll speak for hours if you let him. But he talked for I think it was like 2 a.m. We sat there, and you know when we I kind of went through the motions of everything, and I was going through a shift at that point. Where should I direct my time and energy in my business? And I decided to go into real estate. And before I started, you said, come to the summit. And I said, okay, what the hell is a summit?
Yeah.
And you're like, you'll see. And so I go, right? So I went. And I met a lot of the people here, and I loved a lot of the people here. And but I wasn't sold. You know, I'm cut from a different cloth. I'll tell you that. I'm from Vegas. I'm not going to say the hood, but I grew up in a different area, different environment than a lot of the people that I met here at the company and here in Salt Lake City, right? It's a little different than Las Vegas. And
Just a little?
It's a lot different than Las Vegas, right? But I wasn't sold.
I was just
on
in
the
Vegas
company.
this weekend. I'm thinking it's a lot different here.
It's a lot different. Yeah, you should have. I'll take it where I was raised. And then,
All right.
and then we'll talk. I know you're in a little different spot than I was at. But you know, when I came to Summit, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is a nice real estate company and this and that. But this was the 10-year, I believe it was a 10-year anniversary of Everest. And we got to hear George speak. Mm-hmm. And I was like, damn, George is a real dude. I liked it. And I was like, man, like, I would go to Everest. I loved Alan, and obviously Alan is the one who got me into real estate, but I wasn't sold on Everest. And then, you know, when we got to hear you speak, I was sold.
Now that is good teamwork right there.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you know what? Yes. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. If you can hear yourself, we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
To your point, you know, it actually reminds me just a couple of things. What do great leaders do? And, you know, we talk about this all the time, especially in our private conversations about your team. But first and foremost, right, is that you're there to ensure the fact that, number one, that people are protected. And you start looking at like what's the great history lesson of great leadership, and it's that they're great protectors. You can look at the George Washingtons, you can look at the Abraham Lincolns, look at the protection that a Martin Luther King gave, Mother Teresa gave. She was about protecting the poor, the afflicted, right? And you start looking at every great spiritual leader and every great leader, not the leaders who created carnage, not the ones who are greedy and self-fulfilling. I'm talking the great leaders, right? Yeah. Not the Adolf Hitlers of the world. We're talking about the great leaders, right? Not Hannibals, right? The great leaders. And the great leaders do one thing, and that is they protect. And they protect as much as they can, both physically, mentally, emotionally. And so great leaders, like I look to do that as a father, right? I want to protect my children physically. I want to protect them mentally, and I want to protect them emotionally. And that doesn't mean they don't get life's experience. But what I want to make sure of is that they have a space in which to operate to become their greatest self, because I protect the culture, the environment. like you do with your own team, right?
Yes.
The second component to great leadership, I over just my experience, people always ask, well, where did you read this? It came from all the trial and error and screwing things up over the last 3 decades. It does. It does.
You got a smile on your face because we've talked about this. In the past, we've said we need to protect our environment. We always said that.
I remember when we first sat down, you're like, whoa. I'm like, but you knew that. You know that internally. You know that as a dad. You know that as a father. You know that as, and you know that in business. And if you do it right, man, you get, all of a sudden you start creating something really special. And you guys have done that. You continue to do that. That second component, though, is to teach. Right? I mean, look, the very reason we're sitting here is to hopefully make a difference, to give benefit and to give value to another human being, to help them, to teach them, to educate them, to raise their knowledge up, whether through our own example, through our words. But great leaders teach. And then the third component is we inspire people to take action. So what reminded me of this is you were talking about the summit, it was, at the 10-year anniversary, is inspiring people to help them see what's possible for them. Right? It's why we've talked about coaching sessions that you give to your agents. It's why we talk about standing at the front of the room. It's why you have your sales meetings, to inspire them to go take great action. And when you create a culture and an environment where you have great protection, both mentally, emotionally, and physically, you are then teaching and educating and raising people up from the standpoint of their education and their knowledge, and then you move them into inspiration, holy cow, do you have something special. So the key to great leadership, I really do believe, is protect, teach, and inspire. Breathe life into them.
That's good. That is good.
That was That was beautiful.
Very, very poetic. You know what? I saw Stephanie poke her head in here, and I know that you got to go, George.
Okay.
And if we're all talkers, if we kept going,
we'll be here all day.
We'll be here all day. But George, I want to get you in here more often, and obviously with the longer.
Let's do it.
Time slot.
I want to do it.
Yeah, with the longer time slot, and we can focus more on the. I want to get the whole thing out because George is a great speaker, and these conversations I feel like should be recorded and people should hear them.
Yeah, if we want to it's only because of my surgery. I know I'm going to be out for like 10 days. I'll be available next week, but I wouldn't probably be in the mode of doing a podcast, if that makes sense. Okay. But my point is that I should only have a day or two of that actually. Okay. But then it'll be more so just doing survival for next week, and then I'll be on my way. Yeah, I'll be fine.
I'll chat with Stephanie and we'll see about getting you in here more often, especially now that we're in the same building.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah,
and dude, I love doing this. If you don't know that I love doing it, I love it any day of the week, man. And I love what you guys do, and you both do an extraordinary job. Not only I consider you brothers, but you have a great business, you have a great culture, you have a great heart, and look, that's what it takes to lead in today's marketplace. People are not going to be fooled in today's world anymore. Yep. Manipulation, forcing people to do things, trying to pull the wool over their eyes, it ain't happening. And you guys are the real deal. Keep doing what you're doing. The reason that I appreciate our friendship is because I feel your authenticity, I feel your realness, and I feel your love, and I feel your leadership, man. That's a special place to be. Those are the people I want to associate with. Those are the people I like spending time with, which is the reason why I love spending time with the two of you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Yeah, really, sincerely. Well, thank you so much, George. Thank you for being here. Thanks for spending the time. I'm sure that Stephanie kicking the door.
Brother.
So thanks again. Shout out to George and C21 Everest, and we'll see you guys later.
I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my